They are the images of the civil rights movement, forever etched in the social conscience of America.
Say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
Montgomery, Little Rock, Rosa Parks,
I have a dream.
MLK. Indelible moments in our nation's history. Michael McCrary. It is a name that comes to mind when discussing football, not civil rights. That is a mistake, an oversight of significant proportions. He is one of the best players in the National Football League, idolized for the havoc he wreaks in shoulder pads and a helmet. Yet his parents know that their son's greatest accomplishment, his enduring legacy, was achieved when he was barely out of diapers.
You don't start out with something like this by saying, I think I'll set a legal precedent. As I mentioned before, you start out because you're angry and you start out because you want to try your best to right a wrong.
The wrong that Sandy McCrary set out to right occurred in 1972 when a privately owned daycare center in Arlington, Virginia named Bobby's School refused to admit her 2-year-old son.
I said, by the way, you are integrated. He said, no, we're not. And I said, you mean you don't accept black children? And he said, no, we don't, and we never intend to.
Knowing my mother, I knew that they made a mistake telling my mom that they definitely told the wrong person.
The wrong person set out to do the right thing. Sandy and Curtis McCrary, backed by the NAACP, on behalf of their son Michael, filed a discrimination lawsuit.
You want him to stop it, you know? But it's when it hits your child, and then you realize if we don't do anything about it, then it's going to keep going on. The next person's going to have to hear the same thing.
The case was argued before the United States Supreme Court on April 26, 1976. Runyon versus McCrary was a precedent-setting decision. The justices voted 7-2 in favor of the McCrarys, a landmark ruling in the civil rights movement that prohibited discrimination in any transaction that involved the exchange of money. Among other things, it meant that private schools could no longer discriminate. Little Michael McCrary, now 5, had already achieved his greatest victory.
It took a lot of guts. It took a family that was willing in Northern Virginia to say, it's wrong that this private school will not accept my son, Michael McCrary, because of the color of his skin. And it took a lot of guts for them to do that, and they stood up and they did the right thing and they established a very important precedent.
I've had a lot of my teammates come up and say, wow, I didn't know you were part of something like that. It's pretty neat. I appreciate it. So it feels good, to hear that people really appreciate it, and it's made a difference.
He would ask about it, and I'd put it in context, or try to put it in context, about how it is important, in life to try to stand up, and particularly stand up for people that may not be in the position to do that as well for themselves, that it's almost a responsibility.
That message has been embraced by her son. For his commitment to the community, Michael received the NFL Players Association's highest honor, the annual Humanitarian Award. His $100,000 donation to the Special Olympics was the largest ever made by an athlete or entertainer.
Mike brings intensity to whatever he does, both on and off the field. So when he jumps into a cause like the Special Olympics, he does it with the same veracity and passion and energy that he shows on the field, and that's a positive for the community.
I guess I get it from my parents, just wanting to help other people, especially ones that aren't able to help themselves as much. And when it comes to Special Olympics, it's special for me to help give some money to keep these activities going and available for these athletes.
3 decades have passed since a young couple refused to take their son someplace else. Bobby's school went out of business, replaced by the Fairfax Academy of Early Learning. It is integrated. The McCrary name, now forever etched in the history of this nation.
It's a form of immortality.
Yes.
And I thought about that when Mikey was 3 and 4 years old. It was pretty early to become sort of immortalized in the law books, but it's in a good way, and it's done a lot of good for a lot of families.
The little boy grew up to be a famous football player, a man, not surprisingly, revered for his never-say-never attitude.
Obstacles are just opportunities. You know, you just got to turn them into. Anybody can give up. It's the ones that keep fighting are the ones successful.